Hey folks at Salem, we are the last day of summer here, and it's a beautiful, gorgeous day. We just had our council meeting this evening, and the council is working vigorously on getting a lot of things done. Just a few things that are going on is we are collecting for those scholarships from Guatemala and Tanzania for our young people. That's really an important mission that we serve in those partnerships. We are also defining some new ways to revisit coming back into the building. And the council agreed that if it's a 10-person or less meeting or Bible study or whatever, as long as it's a group that's connected with our church, we can meet under certain guidelines, the COVID guidelines, and those will be published. So that you will know how to do that. And somebody needs to spearhead the meeting, understand what's going on, and police it, basically. So, of course, we are continuing to look for a path back to worshiping indoors. A lot of things got to happen yet for that to occur, but we are trying to get there. Not sure when it'll happen, but in lieu of that, we will continue doing our online worship service, but also we've extended outdoor worship through October here. So, the weather, of course, permitting. We've got some beautiful days upcoming, so we hope that that'll remain through the month of October, and who knows what that will bring afterward. But those are the updates on worship. We are forming a mission exploration team. Now, the mission exploration team is the team that puts the mission site profile together. The mission site profile is what is given to the bishop in the SIDA's office to try to match a candidate for your future pastor. There's a bit of work to be done with that, but we got some fine people that have signed up, and we're one away from filling our committee, so we'll be updating you on that as well. And this is important work because it becomes the voice of the church, the voice of the congregation. You get to define what your candidate would look like. You don't want to leave that all in the hands of the call committee. Otherwise, you have a call committee who just looks at people that they like or people that they think would do a good job. And that can sometimes work, but it does a lot better job of getting that input and giving them some guidance of what the congregation is looking for. And I know that good congregations who implement this will actually take and revolve their questions around that. So when the candidates are interviewed, some specific questions gear them toward what the MSP ended up to be. We have a few other things that are going on through Neighbors. I know they're doing some stuff that people are interested in becoming a member of Salem. We'll certainly look forward to that, and just give us a call at the office and we'll get something set up. I'll meet with whoever would be interested, and we'd love to have you come on board. Good to see you all this evening. At least I think I'm seeing you. I'm watching you through my little camera here. This Sunday we're going to It's Not Fair Part 2. That was the title of the sermon, and we are going into Matthew's Gospel in the 21st chapter. And we're going to be talking about this questioning that the Pharisees have of Jesus' authority. That seems to be a major question all the way through Matthew's Gospel. On what authority did you heal this person? On what authority would you work on the Sabbath day? On what authority, they keep asking Jesus. And finally, he cleanses the temple, and he's teaching in the temple, and they come after him one more time. What authority do you have to do this? They have no real interest in hearing Jesus' explanation, because there's basically three people you could be getting authority from: yourself, God, or Satan. That's kind of your choices. And that's kind of where the crux comes from, with these elders and priests challenging Jesus. What authority do you have? And so he poses this question in reverse and says, well, John the Baptist, he baptized. Did he have authority from God, or was it on his own? Well, that becomes a really powerfully political question for these elders and Pharisees, because if he answers, yes, he had authority from God, well, then why didn't you go get baptized? You didn't listen to him. But if he says, no, he did not have God's authority, he's got a crowd of people that are going to be really, really angry with him. The populace is going to give the elders and priests a real difficult time. So here's the question, and they come back and they say, well, we don't know. Well, since you don't know, that gives Jesus the ability to continue on teaching in the temple. And so he continues and he tells this little story about the two sons. And it might sound a little bit like the prodigal son. This story is only found in Matthew, by the way. And Jesus said, I'll tell you a story about a man who had two sons. Then you can tell me what you think. The father went to the older son and said, go work in the vineyard today. And the son told him that he would not. But later he changed his mind and went. The man told his younger son, go to the vineyard and work. The boy said he would, but he didn't go. Which one of the sons obeyed the father? Well, that's a pretty simple answer, isn't it? The older one, the chief priest. They're pretty proud of themselves. Except that he concludes to the chief priests and elders and said, well, the tax collectors and prostitutes, they believe John the Baptist, and thus they're going to get into heaven before you. Well, that didn't sit very well with the elders and priests. How could you say prostitutes, tax collectors get into heaven before us? That's not fair. We're back to that question once again. And so it also becomes about those tending the vineyard. You know, the vineyard is often talked about in reference to God's kingdom. And he's talking about the vineyard. Who is caring for that? As leaders of the religious community, they're supposed to be caring for the people. After all, Jesus does say the elders of the people. We could probably compare this to representative politics. We have somebody who represents us in Congress or the Senate. They should be working on our behalf. And the same way the chief priests, the elders, the scribes, the Pharisees should be working on behalf of the people. But nonetheless, that's not the case, because they are working for Rome. And Rome, in exchange for keeping peace with the people, Rome gives them a tremendous amount of wealth. So they got a good thing going. I go back to one other story, because this is a parallel story. Oftentimes, our Old Testament stories kind of get buried and we kind of forget about them. This is a great story because it's a very similar story that Nathan tells David. This is just after the Bathsheba incident. Most of us are familiar with the story of Bathsheba, but maybe what you've forgotten is that in order for David to get Bathsheba, it wasn't just merely, well, you're looking at the other porch there across the way, and I want you to bring this woman over to me. Well, she's married, and he knows by law he's got to get rid of the husband. So he takes Uriah and sends him into battle and basically has him killed in battle. Thus, he gets to marry Bathsheba. This was not a happy time, and Nathan made it very clear that there was an issue here. And so he tells them the story. He says, a rich man and a poor man lived in the same town. The rich man owned a lot of sheep and cattle, but the poor man only one little lamb that he had bought and raised. The lamb became a pet for him and his children. He even let it eat from his plate and drink from his cup and sleep on his lap. The lamb was like one of his own children. One day someone came to visit the rich man. The rich man didn't want to kill any of his own sheep or cattle or serve it to the visitor. He stole the poor man's little lamb and served it instead. Well, David was furious with the rich man and said to Nathan, I swear by the living Lord that the man who did deserve this deserves to die. But because he didn't have any pity on the poor man, he will have to pay 4 times what the land was worth. Nathan told David, you are that rich man. Now listen to what the Lord God of Israel says to you. I chose you to be king of Israel. I kept you safe from Saul. and even gave you the house and his wives. I let you rule over Israel and Judah. If that had not been enough, I would have given you much more. Why do you disobey me and do such a horrible thing? Really goes back down to what we talked about last week, about being grateful for what God has given us. Doesn't minimize in any way that we're going through a difficult time with the pandemic. Some are really struggling with mental health through this time. There are many challenges that we've never faced before, but we also need to put things in perspective and look at what God has given us. What would have happened if this would have occurred 30 years ago when we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have all these ways to communicate. It's a wonderful gift to be able to do that. And so we leave this evening concluding with Luther's prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. He prays, O God, you give daily bread to all people, though sinful even without our prayer. But we ask in this prayer that you would help us realize and to receive our daily bread with thanks. Since our daily bread includes everything needed for this life, we thank you for such things as food and clothing, home and property, work and income, a devoted family, an orderly community, good government, favorable weather, peace and health, and a good name, true friends and neighbors. And you can add on to the list all those things that you are thankful for. And so that will be our theme coming up, and our theme once again for our prayer session on Thursday. Thanks for watching. I will see you Thursday. Stay safe, folks.